Kari Lake blasts the media on this election denier issue. She, of course, has had some interesting interviews, and people ask her, they say, Kari, if you win the election, of course, you'll, accept the outcome. But what happens if you lose? And Kari has said many times, after I win, I'll accept the results. And then the media turned around. Oh my gosh, she's an election denier. She's somebody who is not willing to honor the will of the people. And that means she is necessarily undermining American democracy. Sounds pretty pernicious. Sounds like she might be the end of us all. Is she? Well, before we take a look at what she did, and you can see there's a very interesting viral clip of her where she holds up the document and she says, hey, morons, this is some of your own side making very similar claims. Let's take a look at those actual claims from the Democrats themselves. We have a clip that we'll cue up. Minutes of Democrats denying the outcomes of elections go unnoticed. The narrative is flipped. Anybody on the right, anybody who wears a MAGA hat, anybody who ever thinks of Donald Trump is an insurrectionist if they say stuff like this. But when the Democrats do it, it's just perfectly legitimate grievance.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
But there absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes. So that was a very tainted election. And in that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't.
He knows he didn't, coming from Hillary Clinton. So politicians all across America constantly battle over elections, and they have different opinions about what is accurate, what's legitimate. They have arguments over voter enfranchisement, voter disenfranchisement. We have debates over these things. We have policies about voter IDs and not voter IDs, and mail-in ballots and not mail-in ballots. And there are a lot of variables in elections that people will fight over. Hillary may latch onto something. Somebody else may latch onto Russian interference. Somebody else may latch onto this, that, and the other. Now, for all of our purposes, we have to say here on this channel that every election is perfectly legitimate and that there's no evidence that anything has been improperly manipulated so that we don't get struck again on YouTube. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're not even talking about sort of the outcomes of elections. We're not making any arguments about that at all. We're talking about conversations about elections and questioning the process of elections. We're not even talking about outcomes of any of them, just the process of them. And Kari Lake has said that she has some questions, or she wants to ensure that the voting process is legitimate. And these are process conversations, not outcome conversations. So I'm not denying anything or anything. My YouTube censor's over there. He stood up. He's got his katana drawn out. He's like, you better be super careful here, buddy boy. I know. Take it easy. So as you can see, we've got a big litany of Democrats who've been screaming about this stuff from the rooftop. And when Kari Lake started to say, I want to make sure that everybody who can vote votes, when I want to make sure that everything that's promised that should happen legally is actually done legally, She gets blasted by the media. She's called an election denier. Kari Lake doesn't take insults well. When the media said that she was somebody who was a conspiracy theorist or controversial or an election denier, she said, well, it seems like you may be supporting candidates and Democrats who did very much the same thing. And she comes with examples.
I'm actually shocked you asked that question.
Well,
actually, answer.
I have to give you a tough one once in a while.
I did a little, actually, Anthony, how old are you?
20.
Are you a journalist?
No.
Well, you did better research than half these people. Let's talk about election deniers. Here's 150 examples of Democrats denying election results. Oh wow, look at this. This is from Joe Biden's press secretary. Reminder, Brian Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams. Democrats saying that. Is that an election denier? Oh, look at this. Just heard Republican Ryan Costello said it would be difficult for Stacey Abrams to win because she lost her state bid, but yet she's still claiming she never lost. This is outright. Hillary Clinton. Trump is an illegitimate president. Is she an election denier?
Hillary Clinton?
This one says, was the 2016 election legitimate? It now definitely is a question worth asking. Wow. That's the Los Angeles Times. So it's okay for Democrats to question elections, but it's not okay for Republicans. It's a crock of BS. Yeah. Every one of you knows it. Yes. We have our freedom of speech, and we're not going to relinquish it to a bunch of fake news propagandists. If you want a copy of these, I'm sure that Anthony would help you get a copy and help you learn how to be journalists, but look it up. It's been happening for a long time. Since 2000, people have questioned the legitimacy of our elections. And all we're asking is that in the future, we don't have that have to happen anymore.
That's all.
When I'm governor, we're going to make sure we have honest elections. We want the Democrats, the Independents, and the Republicans to all know that their vote counted. Yeah. We want fair, honest, and transparent elections, and we're going to deliver that for the people. But just remember, guys, this is one page after Hillary Clinton says George W. Bush was selected president, not elected. So let's start, if you're going to start throwing around terms like election denier, let's remember who the other election deniers were. Hillary Clinton and all the Democrats. Next question.
Next question. Just eviscerates the entire media with a flamethrower, a peaceful political flamethrower, and then says, next question. What else would you like me to torch for you? My goodness. Oh my gosh. Next question. Thank you, Kari Lake. And it's reasonable, right? It's a reasonable thing to talk about. It's about talking about the process of elections. This is a huge part of political science. If you go into school and want to run for, a political science, if you want to go and become a political science major so that eventually you can run for office one day, right? One of the things you talk about is elections and how to get more voters enfranchised and things like that. There's a whole, sector of people who do this professionally. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry to get out the vote. GOTV. That's what she's talking about here. We're talking about making sure that Americans trust their elections and trust the outcomes. And now she is saying that the standard is set, right? If the Democrats can say that type of stuff, other Republicans can say it without being called terrorist insurrectionists. And can I be honest with you, my friends? Where are all of the other elected Republicans? Where has any one of them been with a statement like this? Where's Ted Cruz? Where's Tom Cotton? Where's Lindsey Graham? Where are they? None of them has said anything like this at all over the last several years. They've all been sitting on their hands like big babies. And she's the only person, as far as we can tell, as far as I can tell, that is actually saying anything meaningful about it. Just asking a question. The media beats her up about it. She's not even saying anything about prior elections. So take it easy, YouTube censors. I'm not making any statements about that. Just saying that as part of normal American social discourse, we talk about these things. If the Democrats can make those statements, why can't she? Kari Lake. Now, Kari Lake drawing all sorts of attention, major eyeballs all over Arizona and really all over the nation. But Kari Lake has some enthusiasm behind her. Katie Hobbs has no enthusiasm. She's running against Kari Lake and nobody's even showing up for her rallies. This is a clip from Arizona News that is explaining both sides of this race. Kari Lake with a lot of enthusiasm and Katie Hobbs not so much.
A typical campaign stop for Kari Lake, Republican nominee for Arizona governor.
Nobody called the fire department because I think we might be breaking a few codes.
Packed house.
The former TV anchor headlines raucous events. For a base sparked by spectacle.
Thanks, everyone. I am Katie Hobbs.
Democratic nominee Katie Hobbs.
Where is everybody? Look.
2, 3. Perfect.
Strikes a more subdued and conventional path.
Conventional.
Hosting grassroots gatherings emphasizing issues such as defending democracy.
Where is everybody?
Democracy is on the line. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks so much.
A sharp contrast in styles. Serious against sensational.
From the very first day she got in the race, Kari Lake had a movement. So I personally, in a gubernatorial race in Arizona, I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy in Arizona. Kari Lake has huge crowds. Katie Hobbs has a couple of kids who have nowhere else to go for lunch. Out there at a college campus. Nobody's even there. And Katie Hobbs also can't really talk coherently. So we'll see how that goes in Arizona. That, my friends, is Kari Lake, and she is blasting the election deniers, the Democrats who denied all sorts of elections, previously speaking. And so we'll see how that goes for Kari Lake and the other Democrats who are up against her, the cowardly Katie Hobbs, who won't even debate her. Now we have elections coming up around the corner, and Kari Lake, we'll see how she wins.